Hey everybody, what's going on? Rob Sestrino back here. It's day 5 of our Survivor 47 preview series. Halfway there through 9 days of previewing the people that will play on Survivor 47. We got a good one here today. 2 more Survivor players to talk about here with the man who talked to them all. Give it up for Mike Bloom.
Rob, got a light? Because this tribe is smoking.
Smoking?
Because there's so much great heat coming from them in the various interviews I got to do with them.
Was this a 1994 Mask reference?
Well, listen.
Somebody stop them.
Exactly. That's really what we're trying to focus on. The gameplay is so fast that it's like they're moving through a Loki-inspired cartoonish
What happened to
garb.
all the gotta puns of like, you gotta be kidding me?
I just asked got a light, Rob, and you said we got a good one.
Yeah, got a light. Okay.
You focused on smoking. You completely barreled over got a light.
Sorry, my bad. Okay. All right.
This is more 1990s parlance.
Edit this all out. Let's start again. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. We are ready to talk about 2 more Survivor contestants today. And we're going to talk about Jon Lovett and Rachel. Okay. Mike, of course, we are on day 5. If you missed any of these, make sure you're subscribed. dropasawebsite.com/subscribe or watch them all on YouTube. We released our Jon Lovett interview back on the day of the cast release. Seemed like a newsworthy thing to do, but today we're going to watch it in full and then, of course, give our thoughts on that and then talk about Rachel. Anything you want to set up here about Jon Lovett?
Yes, we got Lovett and Lamont today. Sounds like an accounting firm, and we are accounting on them to do well in this game. Let's talk about Jon Lovett here. Let's do a little bit of I was going to say IMD bags, but I guess it really is just more so a background check on Jon Lovett because he's not necessarily known for his on-screen work.
I think that if you want to put it in political, we want to do some vetting.
There we go. Do some vetting. We're doing some on-the-ground polling.
Yeah. We don't have
Jon
any
Lovett.
oppo right now on Jon Lovett.
Well, we'll see how much oppo he has in the game. So Jon Lovett, for those who don't know, so he ended up kind of wanting to become this simultaneous political speechwriter / screenwriter. And in doing some research on him in preparation for today, discovered some pretty wild things about his career. Of course, he ends up getting a foot in the door in terms of politics when he works for the Obama White House.
Sure.
Which apparently he won an anonymous letter writing contest to earn that role. He participated, of course, in the Obama White House, where also apparently he officiated secretly the first same-sex marriage in the White House before the Obama administration officially, for lack of a better term, came out in favor of same-sex marriage. But Jon
Lovett did.
Jon Lovett did. Yeah, So listen, move over, Jeff. We've got a new officiator that could possibly take over. Lovett also moved on from working in the White House, but not too far because he was the co-creator and writer and executive producer of a short-lived NBC show called 1600 Penn. Do you remember this one, Rob?
Yeah, I hear it was very good.
Yeah, so listen, you know how to you've learned from past mistakes. We should say that.
I believe Josh Gad, right?
Josh Gad, Bill Pullman, I believe. Bill Pullman plays the president once again.
Yes, once again.
Talk about 1990s throwbacks there. Jenna Elfman showing up there as well. More 90s throwbacks there. And then, probably most prominently now, Lovett was one of these people who started alongside another unfortunately named speechwriter in Jon Favreau and Tommy, a podcast called Keeping It 1600 for the 2016 election.
Yes, that was part of now I'm not sure if it was, I guess it was the early days of The Ringer. And that's where that started. And yeah, I was an early adopter.
Yeah, and so the adoption continued. It was not just a foster home, as after the 2016 election, the 2 Johns and Tommy decided to stay on and continue podcasting. And they, of course, have developed over the next near decade Pod Save America. They developed, Jon Lovett has done his own podcast called Love It or Leave It. And really, and you can speak to this a little bit, Rob, as well, they have used this to parlay the creation of their own umbrella network known as Crooked Media. And so Jon is able to obviously bring a lot of skills from a creativity perspective, but also from an organizational perspective as well.
Yeah, this is very exciting to see Jon, who is a very funny guy, and see him here on Survivor. Nobody knew he was a Survivor fan, I guess, except for his inner circle, and he's going to talk about that with you. So why don't we go ahead and listen to your interview with Jon, and then we will come back and talk about how we think he's going to do.
How are you doing right now? I know that it's probably just been sitting in anticipation. I know you were probably used to talking, so I can imagine sitting in silence for so long has been a little bit of a miserable existence.
You know what? I think it's good for me to shut the fuck up. So I think that that's been probably a good thing. I'm glad I've had the chance to do that for a few days. Good to talk to you, though.
Yeah.
It's nice to talk to you.
I was going to say, we're about to open up that valve right now, and I'm excited to see what flows out. Well, to start, I think there might be some people that are familiar with you, but just in case, why don't you give your name, your age, and your occupation?
My name is Jon Lovett. I'm 41, and I am a podcast host.
I mean, that's kind of putting it mildly. I mean, I would go so far as to say media empire guru, but
Yeah, I am a co-host of a show called Pod Save America. I host a live show that tours called Love It or Leave It. And with my friends, Jon and Tommy, we started a company called Crooked Media, which is meant to be a place for people who are pretty frustrated by politics, but still care about democracy. And we're really proud of how it managed to take off and build like a really amazing community. So, yeah.
there are people who play this game. They're like, I'm so excited to get unplugged from the world for 26 days. I would imagine for someone whose job is to follow politics, that counts like doubly for you.
Yeah. Yes. I like, look, it's the middle of a very important election year. So it was so really excited to do this and really excited to have 5 weeks to focus completely on strange experiment in deprivation and democracy for a few weeks. And then like, I'm going to come out of this and hit the ground running, covering the presidential election, the Senate elections, the House elections, the down ballot elections. And we have like a whole bunch of shows planned. Like I'm going to come out of this and just hit the road and whatever shape I'm in. But for now, yes, I handing over my phone and just being completely disconnected. I don't think I've ever done it for 48 hours, let alone to do it for 5 weeks.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about what got you into this, as you call it, strange experiment of deprivation and democracy. I'm color me surprised to find out that like you're a Survivor fan and wanted to be on the show. So talk to me about your history with watching the show and what made you decide to say, this is something I want to do.
So I watched the first season when it aired. I was in high school and I loved it. My family wasn't watching it. I was watching it alone. And I remember in the final moments before Richard Hatch won and it becoming clear that he would, running around my house, just screaming to people who didn't understand what was going on. My parents had no idea why I was losing my mind over this, but I was riveted by it. I loved it and I kept up with it. And then I stopped watching as I went into politics and came back to it in the last couple of years. But I came back to it while I was hosting a show. And because I didn't want to be spoiled, I've never talked about Survivor on the show and this has happened to me a bunch of times with a bunch of different shows. I want to like let people know that I'm like catching up to this thing. But if I say it, somebody is going to find a way to spoil the show. So I've literally not talked about it on these podcasts. And by the way, like I didn't even Google Survivor because I was afraid of spoilers as I made my way through the last 24 seasons. And so I came into this, like, it was really very organic. Like I was watching Survivor with a few friends. We were catching up together. And the more I watched, I would kind of open up a notes document on my computer and like write little thoughts down that were like the formation of what a video might be if I answered Jeff's plea in the commercial. And the more I started writing down a story of why I wanted to be on Survivor, the more I believed it, and the more I was excited about the possibility.
Well, let's have you refer maybe back to the note stock that you were compiling. Give me one Survivor winner and one non-winner who you identify with the most.
Survivor non-winner, like I feel like uh, Penner
Mm,
is someone that I related to, not for good and for ill, right? Because like what I appreciated about how he played and what I saw kind of that reminded me of how I might play are both the ways in which he was very smart and strategic, but also the ways in which he might come on a little too strong.
mhm.
And I thought in that there was something that uh, I had a kinship with. I really love the way Sophie played
Mm.
in her season that she won, and I just appreciated her intellect and how she approached the game. Those are the two that come to mind.
So is your, I would say, like, identity in a manner of speaking, like your job, obviously, you do have some name, some renown. Is this something you plan on, being explicit about? Do you think this is something that people could find threatening, given it's a game where anyone can find anything threatening?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. And I really, even now as I sit here, I'd like to tell you that I have some like grand answer to it. I do plan to feel it out, but I also, we see this all the time. Someone's like, oh, I'm 19, but I'm going to say I'm 22. Like, I'm a lawyer, but I'm going to say I'm a law student. And maybe that helps them. I don't know. I'm inclined to think that any way in which I feel like I need to deceive people is a bit self-aggrandizing. Like, I'm just going to be honest. Like, I host a comedy podcast. If like I'm like I've had success in podcasting. If someone's like, oh wow, like like I don't know, like if someone here maybe knows the show, like I can say, oh, that's great, that's exciting. I'm a podcast host, the most embarrassing job in the world. I don't want to build it up. I don't want to play it down. I just kind of want to hit the middle with it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Give me your biggest superpower and your biggest piece of kryptonite coming into this game. Because I would imagine on
Question.
paper, being in a job that's all about communication and reading votes, I'd imagine that was a superpower. But is that the number one for you?
That's interesting. I think that as as often the case, I think like my strength is my weakness.
Mm,
It's that I think at my best, I have an intensity that can be persuasive and charismatic
mm.
and can bring people along. And at the same time, it can also, I think, turn people off and push people away. And so I have this, I don't want to hide, I don't want to not be myself in the hopes that instead of playing to win, try to play not to lose and then never show who I am in the event that I do go home before I win. Uh, so I'm thinking about how to make sure that when I am being myself, that it's the version of myself that is persuasive and enticing and not off-putting and annoying. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. What has your preparation been like? Because to say you have had a busy schedule would be putting it mildly. How have you been trying to like get ready for this $1 million adventure of a lifetime on top of all the other stuff you have?
I have been, I have, uh, I am sure that you are talking to people that are here with me, steps away, that have been training for this impressively for months, if not years on end. And I would like to say that that's me. It is not. I have been doing some puzzles I have been practicing a lot of different kinds of puzzles, not necessarily Survivor specific puzzles, but just the different kinds of geometric and slide puzzles that you might see in this kind of game, and jigsaw puzzles. I've been practicing that, and in the most way possible. I've taken a lot of hot exercise classes. I've been
Mm.
trying to get in shape in a very hot. That was one of my ways of preparing. And other than that, I really um I've been thinking a lot. Basically, I thought about preparation. One is play against other people. The second is how to play against the game.
Mm.
And the third is how to play against myself. And what I mean by that is, yes, it's important to have some kind of strategic thinking about how you're going to approach this game. And it's important to think about how you'll deal with idols and advantages, and what it means when those come your way. But in the end, I do think more often than not, this game is won or lost by how people play against themselves, like how they manage their frustrations, their annoyances, their insecurities, their paranoias, their hopes, their expectations when they're hungry, when they're tired, when they haven't spoken to a person they can truly trust in weeks. And how to make sure when you're in that state, you aren't losing touch with your feelings about the game or the other players, I think is the biggest challenge. And I don't know how you can prepare for that other than to think a lot about kind of simple core approaches to keep in mind, touchstones to keep in mind when the going gets tough.
You talk about playing against the other players and the people that are steps away. I'm sure you're making some vibes with people. You haven't been able to talk with each other, but who are you feeling out? Who do you love it and who do you leave it? Who are some people that you're saying like on the beach, first day, perfect. Best case scenario, ride or die.
Again, I'm sure I am getting scoped out and like evaluated left and right. Fine. I'm sure that's a valuable thing to do. I'm kind of stepping back and looking around and I'm just thinking like, where am I, where are my gays and my theys, you know? Uh, that's one thing. There's somebody who brought a book of math puzzles, and I'm feeling very good about that person. I'm also envious of their math puzzles. Um, and it's funny. No one can speak, and so everyone's trying to convey warmth and openness. And what that ends up meaning is just everybody's kind of stoic, and then their faces kind of catch each other and they shoot each other these charismatic, high
Hmm.
wattage grins, the same ones that got them casted, at each other over and over again. And there's a, yeah, I
Mm.
don't know.
Well, what about on the other side? Is there anybody that you're not picking up some good vibes from? Or to your point, is it just everyone stonewalling, so it's tough to discern?
You know, there's a couple guys who have a kind of quiet confidence that I find threatening. You know, that there's a lot of concern in this. Everyone is very aware of how they're being perceived and
Mm.
and you feel that impacting just their little movements through the world. You know, when you're at a restaurant and you're with a friend and you realize that on either side of you, there's somebody dining alone,
Mm.
and you know that they're kind of listening because you know that they can't help it, you know? Everyone here is dining alone. Everyone here is doing that, and you just see it kind of like you just see the kind of attention like wash back and forth across this group of people. And I am I am resistant. I feel it, like the urge to be like, oh, they're my person, they're not my person. Maybe true, but maybe not. So
Mm.
I'm fighting this maybe to my detriment. I don't know.
Well, I know that you kind of removed yourself a bit from the online fandom to not spoil yourself, but I'm intrigued. What is your most controversial Survivor opinion? Your hottest take about a season or a player?
Here's my honest answer to that right now. And again, famous last words. Man, putting us on talking about this before the game, it's a piano hanging over our heads once the game starts. Fine. Uh, I'll tell you what has been my frustration, which is, and you see it even in this season, maybe to its extreme, this idea of you have to make big moves, you have to build your resume. And up to and including when people say, oh, I may put myself in fire to prove that I deserve it. And, I've never heard of somebody like in a war, nobody fights an extra battle to prove they're good at war. And, you know, I I find this idea of like big moves for their own sake a kind of performance of strategy, but not strategy.
Mm.
It's the theater of strategy to put on a show for the jury to show that you understand how to be strategic or how to play the game. And I don't have an answer to it, but for whatever reason, it really kind of bugs me. It feels like, yeah, it feels performative. I don't know how to get around that, because if that is ultimately what people value, then it is what is valuable. That's the nature of this game. The group of people playing decides what has value. But that to me, I find a little bit strange.
Right. It's tough to kind of rebuild the building while you're inside it, you know?
Yeah.
Last thing I want to ask is if you could bring out a celebrity or a fictional character as a loved one for a loved one's visit, who are you picking and why?
What a question. You know what? It'd be fun to have out here? I'll tell you. Chelsea Handler.
Oh,
That would be funny. I think people would really like that. I'd like that. What a funny person to show up.
yeah. And listen, everyone likes to get roasted, at least a little light
Yeah.
char. And then she's somebody that could certainly light you up. She'd be her own fire making challenge.
For sure. For sure.
Oh my goodness. Well, this was such a fantastic time. I mean, I'm one of the people, and I'm sure I'll be speaking on behalf of many who eventually will find out that you're on this. That was shocked to your point that yeah, you were on this in the first place. But this was such a delight to get to talk to you, and I think to discover a new part of yourself, and we're going to discover so much more over the next 26 days.
I hope so. Nice to talk to you. Nice
Yeah,
to meet
nice
you.
to talk to you. Nice to meet you as well. Well, all the best. All the I hope you are doing well in the lead up to the big day, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens out there on the beach. I'll see you on the other side.
Great. Thanks, Mike.
All right, have a good one.
All right, there you go, Mike. Jon Lovett.
Still wild to me. Absolutely still wild. I mean, just to talk through my experience, because as I mentioned during the AJ interview, I got given a list of the cast ahead of time just to prep for the interviews. And so, like, my running train of thought was, oh, Andy, good for him. I'm glad he made it on. What the hell, Asia, cardiac arrest, EKG meter spiking. Made my way down the list. It can't be that Jon Lovett, right? Like, it's just got to be a guy with the same name. Maybe it's Jon Lovett instead, and they left off the Z.
Well, Jon Lovett would be wild, famously a incredible liar.
That's very true. And he might be taking over for the Survivor Devil, considering that was a role he infamously played on SNL. But no, I mean, as we talk about, this is one of the biggest blindsides, I think, of anyone who follows Jon Lovett, and understandably so, considering that, as he told me, he has pretty much kept his Survivor fandom away from everybody because he knows the second that he goes public with it, people will be storming his DMs with like, oh, did you watch Eric give up the necklace? Oh, did you watch Parvati play the two idols?
Yeah. Either people that are excited Survivor fans or people who maybe disagree with his politics and want to intentionally spoil the seasons.
What an ultimate troll move.
Here's the winner list.
That's truly a way to own the libs, is just send them Survivor spoilers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Here's Project 2025, and here's the winner of season 25.
So, Jon Lovett, I've talked about this before, Rob. I really do feel like not since Ron Clark have we had such a famous face in the form of Jon Lovett. Now, that being said, not to spoil my interviews too much, I did not have anyone outright identify him by name.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's going to happen, but it seems like Jon is saying no matter what, he's going to be fairly forthcoming with it.
Yeah, I did. What did he say that so what? I'm a podcaster, the dumbest job ever. Was that what he said?
Yeah, only
Jon,
so many terms.
You don't have to go, like, you don't have to hit the drum that hard. Like, okay.
Exactly. Please don't neg the profession too much.
Yeah. And so, like, maybe, that there is, like, I mean, what is the danger here? That they're going to say, like, maybe in some sort of, like, final vote that he could get, like, well, does he really need the money? Like, if anything, that could help him maybe get to the end. We saw with Mike White, another accomplished person, that there wasn't necessarily, like, people going, like, big game hunting of like, oh, that I'm going after this person for a particular reason. And so maybe people even want to associate with him on the show. So yeah, I don't think that there's any big reason to lie about that. Like, I know that people talk about, this is like something that's come up on Big Brother of like, oh, that person's an actor, so they must know how to lie. Well, guess what? Podcaster is the opposite of actor, because you have to tell the truth all day and talk about what's going on.
Yeah,
so,
we're basically the best thing to coconut vendors. We seek truth. The truth shall prevail. So just to go back on that for a couple of things. First off, to clarify, he did say that podcasting is the, quote, most embarrassing job.
Most embarrassing. That's even worse.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that's a lot worse.
It's worse. Yeah.
Yeah, like you're feeling a secret shame every time you get behind the microphone. But I feel a couple ways about this. First off, I do agree with you that you look at someone like Mike White, you look at someone like Ron Clark. It wasn't like a definite non-starter of, well, these guys have repute to their names. They don't need the money. We're going to have to vote them off immediately. I should note, though, Mike White doesn't go to tribal council until a week into the game. Ron Clark doesn't go to tribal council until the merge. Is there a chance that, especially in a 6-person tribe situation, Rudy said it infamously on your All-Stars commentary, if you can find any reason to get rid of someone early on, you can find it.
Yeah, but if Jon doesn't do well, it's not going to be, well, he was a podcaster, he has a podcast network.
I hope they don't edit it like that.
I don't think so. I think that it could be that, okay, he's not contributing in the challenges as much as this other person, or, I do not think that is going to be the reason why he has a potential problem early on in the game. What I thought was very interesting about this was, on the podcast, Jon is often like and I mean this endearingly, like the least serious person on the panel. I found him in his conversation with you to be quite serious, and it was a departure. I mean, he certainly like had some funny lines, but that he's more of typically like a little bit of, bringing some levity and some humor to the podcast. And I thought he is taking this assignment like very seriously. It wasn't like joke.
I mean, could it be that he is out of his comfort zone in many ways? I mean, look at the commercial we've seen umpteenth times this summer, Rob, about Jon Lovett saying there being like, it's going to be a lot more, I'm going to be a lot more afraid of being here than you all are out there.
Yeah, I think he talks about being awkward. It's going to be more awkward for me than it is for you. Yeah,
exactly. So, like, there is going to be that level of self-deprecation there. I think it certainly will when it comes to banter with Jeff. I get so many David Wright comparisons to Jon here. I think it's the matter. I think for me, it's like, the sense of humor, it's the out of his element thing. Yeah. I mean, a big thing that he talked about in the season preview, right in the trailer that showed in the 46 finale, was him being like, the only experience I have in nature was like I did Boy Scouts for a day and then I threw up and went home. And so I do think we're going to get a lot of that similar types of beats of like, I'm in over my head, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah. I would respectfully push back on that a little bit. I don't know if I'm getting David Wright, where David Wright was scared. And I don't know if Jon seems scared to me. Like I'm not getting where he's like I think that he is like pointing out the absurdity of the situation. That like what is this? Why am I even here? What is happening? And so I don't know if it's quite David Wright. Like maybe David Wright the second time a little bit more, but early David Wright, that's not what I'm seeing from here. I loved his comparison to Penner of it being somebody who can sort of like state an uncomfortable truth. And like not be sort of sheepish about doing that. And I think that is something that has endeared Penner to the fans, whereas could be a little off-putting for people who don't quite get his sensibility.
Yeah, I mean, that's what Jon has pointed out with both his strength and his weakness as well, right? His superpower and his kryptonite was the fact that he is intense. And it's interesting because, again, to your point, I wouldn't say his energy is like laconic, but he was someone that on his podcast would usually come in to maybe lighten the mood if there is a need for one. But it does sound like maybe as a person, interpersonally interacting with people, maybe he does come on a bit strong. And it's good for him to notice that. But I do find it interesting as well that, I think from a very understandably political perspective, he was walking a very nice tiptoe with some of the questions. Like, when I ask him, who are you vibing with? Who are you not? He's like, well, for all I know, these could become my best friends. So I don't really want to pass judgment. However, these couple of guys that are all dude bro macho stuff, I want nothing to do with them. And so I think that's a little bit of a taste of what we're going to get with him, both from an entertainment perspective, but to your point, and as he talked about with Penner, that could be something that works against him if the tribe dynamics don't work out in his favor.
He talked about how very important year, election year, taking some time away, and then thought that this was going to potentially recharge the battery when he gets back. He's going to hit the ground running, and that he definitely did.
Yeah, so, the way that things time out, if we add 26 days to about when they started, it would be early June. And even
shot
then,
out of a cannon.
Yeah, this poor, emaciated, tan-eyed man was probably sent on to his own campaign trail immediately. I think he was. I mean, he was doing appearances on like Colbert over the summer as well. So, he truly was
had an active summer.
I mean, this really was his vacation, his quite literal beach vacation.
Yeah. Okay. As far as how Jon is going to do it, I mean, there's so much variance that could be an early boot, doesn't find his footing here in the tribe, just to place him so far. I mean, I kind of feel like that Andy seems like a guy that Jon could get along with very easily. I don't know who the third man is in this tribe.
So,
we'll talk about that tomorrow.
We'll talk about him tomorrow. I mean, I will spoil it and say that guy has been having some eyes for Jon Lovett, and not in the best way.
Okay.
And it does feel like what I'm prognosticating for Jon, and maybe it's because he pulled a Kenzie and dropped the gays and the theys reference, is that I could see him try to immediately get something together with the women and potentially turn the tribe against this guy Sam that we're going to talk about tomorrow. And that might succeed to varying degrees. If they lose early, and Sam might be the physically strongest person on that tribe, are they going to necessarily go along with that plan and make a big move early on? Or could Jon get caught a little flat-footed of trying to scheme too early too often? So I think if Jon's tribe gets off to like a very good streak, or he nestles himself in well with a really good group of people, like I see him and Annika getting along really well. I think that he could be in a good spot, but I think there's also a potential of him being one of the first targets on this tribe.
There are many folks that have gotten mad at Jon and his friends for trying to get a guy out early, but he's very effective, has a good track record.
Yeah, so far he's 1 for 1. Let's see if that record sticks.
Okay. All right. Mike, anything else to say about Jon? I'm very excited that he's here in the cast. Can't wait to watch him play.
Yeah, you want to hear some highlights from his bio as well? Suffice it to say, understandably, Jon Lovett, a very fun bio writer here.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you always like to bring up the athleticism of these types of characters. When asked about 3 of his favorite hobbies, Jon does say in all caps, I love video games, but he does say, my awkwardness/personality suggests unfit oaf, but I work out a lot and like to do it. And then when asked, how would your friends describe you? He says, well, I think they'd start by making fun of me. They'd say that I miss or ignore social cues, that I can be demanding and rude, that I can be self-involved to the point of parody and may forget to ask how their day is after I describe mine. But then once they finish roasting me, they'd get to the part where I drop anything for them, that I'm loyal and relentless and extremely smart, that I'm funny, but not as funny as I think I am. that I have drive and charisma and enthusiasm that is special and compelling and the key to my success and what makes me a good friend. It's fun to imagine what your
Wow.
friends would say. Is this therapy?
I liked his answer to your hot take question about the strategy, the theater of strategy of like, I am doing this thing because that this is what the strategic thing is. But is it? I like that the players are really starting to like talk about these things, and so I don't know where it ultimately goes, but I loved his answer to that question.
Well, I think it is actually going from a political perspective. It is kind of like building that silent majority, right? As I talked about in the on the interview itself, it is tough to kind of rebuild the house while you're standing inside it. That like on paper, yes, it would be nice to talk to the group about
Working on rebuilding the house.
Yes, exactly. Of like, hey, the meta this season is we don't necessarily care about the resume as much as maybe last season did. And if you can get enough people on board to go along with that, then yeah, you'll be able to institute that. But he does bring up also a good point of like, as much as I feel this, if I'm in with a cast that's primary policy, you know, your first 100 days or first 26 days, your primary executive order is like, no, we're still going to honor big moves, then you just kind of have to go along with it. I will finish by adding one little tidbit here from one Jeff Probst, because I got the chance to talk with him. I think that interview should be out soon. And I did ask him, like, where did this come from? And Jon Lovett did apply. And Jeff said when he saw that he applied, he was thrilled. And he called him, quote, one of the all-time great storytellers that will ever appear on Survivor, whether he lasts one day or all 26.
Okay. All right. Interesting. All right. Mike, we have another person to talk about. We have Rachel coming up, and we will discuss her and her interview when we come back right after this. Okay, Mike, Rachel Lamont, not the first time you and she got the chance to talk.
Yes, so Rachel is 34 years old. She is from Southfield, Michigan, and she is a UI designer. But you and I, Rachel, talked for the second time during this season because, as is revealed almost immediately in this interview, Rachel was the female alternate for season 46. And I got the chance to, when I visited the set for Survivor 46 and did preseason interviews, I got the chance to talk with her on, unfortunately, a very down day for Rachel.
So, Mike, just a question for you, the journalist. So you talk to somebody in Survivor 46. They're the alternate. They don't make the cut. They're on the next season. What do you do with the old interview?
I mean, sits in the proverbial Disney vault, Rob, just for my own memories, but also helps when I happen to interview the person the next season. I'm like, what did they say their celebrity loved one was? Let me just like jog my memory about it. But yeah, I mean, when we are out there, we get the opportunity to talk with everyone in the cast. So at this point, it was the 18 players and then the 2 alternates as well. As will be talked about during the interview, you know, by the time I had talked with Rachel and the enigmatic male alternate from a season 46, it had already been sort of publicized.
Boy, if you could ever talk to that guy again.
I know. Oh, God, just pie in the sky wishes, Rob. Next time a shooting star comes along, that's what my mind's going to be on. But when I ended up talking with them, the cast had officially been confirmed. They had finished all the individual cast photos. They done one big group one that, like, barring any last minute pulls, this was the group of 18. And so the 2 of them were in understandably some very down moods because they had been hanging around, you know, sort of they knew they were alternates, but like people were making eyes at them, you know, they were already maybe thinking about, are these people I want to, you know, avoid or join up with on the beach? And then that reality sets in of like, this is not your time. And so I'm really grateful that I had the opportunity to talk with Rachel. And I'm even more grateful I had the opportunity to talk with her next season. And as she says in my interview, for her, it's very much like, you know, everything happens for a reason. And 47 truly feels like her time.
Okay, let's hear Mike's interview with Rachel.
Hello, hello.
Oh, hi, Mike Bloom. How are you?
Oh, I am great. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm happy to be here again.
Yes, again. So I mean, on that note, I think we'll get into what again means. But we'll start with, you know, the easy stuff. Why don't you
Basic.
give me, yeah, your name, your age, and your occupation?
I'm Rachel Lamont. I'm 34 years old, and I'm a user interface designer.
Yeah, so what does that mean? Because obviously that's such a generic term, but I feel like so applicable to the fact that we are interacting with screens each and every day. I say as you're about to not interact with them for 26 days.
Yeah, I mean, I basically like make apps that you interact with look pretty. So like I design what they look like and the colors and all of that good stuff.
Well, let's talk about what has you donning a buff color, as it were. Let's talk about what got you onto Survivor. I guess what's your history with the show, and what was the process to get you out here as a player?
Yeah, well, I'd never seen Survivor before. My husband randomly put it on TV one day when we were like cleaning the house, and I remember he said like, oh, Survivor, like my dad, he loves this show. And I was like, I've heard of that. And he put it on, and I just remember like setting the vacuum down and sitting down on the couch and being like, how the hell have I never seen this show before? And I was like so hooked. And I feel like from the start, it was just this idea of like, I think I could do this. Like that's really what got me hooked on Survivor. It was like a great show as well, but I think from the beginning, I was like, I think that like I don't know. Some people watch like Jeopardy and they're like, I can do that, or Wheel of Fortune. You always know those people and I like for whatever reason when I watched Survivor, I was like, I think I could do that, and like I want to do that. And within like a couple months, I had submitted my first like audition video, and yeah, over the years, got a call, then ghosted, blah blah blah, and then in 2020 I got like the first like real call that kind of started to get my foot in the door. And yeah, COVID happened, like all this stuff, and then uh 2 years ago, like I was pitched and then kind of went silent. And then last year I got through everything and ended up being the alternate. So I came out here on Survivor 46 as the female alternate and didn't get to play, but now I'm here. And it's great to be here. It's been a long time coming.
Absolutely. I'm so happy I get the chance to talk with you again because, yeah, I mean, when you and I spoke, it was this very unique experience where you knew that you were the alternate and it was the day before the game, and you knew, like, barring any last minute medical emergencies, pretty much, that this was not going to be your time. And like that was palpable in the mood that you had. And we
Yeah.
had connected over that. So talk to me about like what was that process like in the past year? And I especially imagine you're looking at like the alternate universe where you were on Survivor 46 and having certain reactions
Yeah.
about that.
I mean, I have strong feelings about that as well. Oh, so I don't know. Yeah, I think like when we talked last year, that was definitely my lowest day because it was the day that they did the group photo. So before that, like nobody knew that I was the alternate except me, and then all of a sudden I felt very outed and felt very much like this isn't my season, I don't belong here. And then we like I think we did my interview like a couple hours later. So it was like a little bit brutal, but I think what I when I went to Fiji last year, I was like, everything I do while I'm there, I need to show them why like I should be playing this game. And so, you have some opportunities to talk to people, and I really just like wanted to make them say like we fucked up. Like that's really like was my goal. And when I left at the end of the week, I felt that I had done that. Like I felt that I had accomplished that. And so I felt really weirdly good. I know the day we talked it wasn't great, but like after that I felt really good about my whole experience and felt like at peace with the fact that that wasn't my season and that I would get another chance. And over the last year since then, ebbs and flows, self-doubt, whatever, but I'm here and it feels amazing. And I really like I am the kind of person that believes that everything happens for a reason and timing is everything. And just being here and seeing like all the people here and the vibe of this season, like I genuinely feel like this is my season. Like this is the one that it was meant to be. And I don't know. It's great. So yeah.
Ah, that's amazing to hear. So let's look back on Survivor history, which you started embarking upon through that chance encounter on the couch. Give me one winner and one non-winner who you identify with the most.
All right. I have a love-hate relationship with this question. I listen to your interviews every year, Mike Bloom, and I never know what I'm gonna say for these. But okay, I'll start
This
with
is this
non-winner.
is the preparation for Survivor. I'm
I
springing it
know.
on you in the moment.
Okay. So I think a non-winner that I really identify with, like as a person, is Kellen Bechtold. I feel like I've never really watched other players on the screen and been like, that feels like me. But when Kellen was on Ghost Island, I really like her personality resonated with me. Like a Midwest girl, like strong personality, smart and like scrappy, and you know, just I just love her. And then I also feel like I really, really like Omer Zahir. Like, I feel like when I watched him play his game, I was like, that is the game I want to play. Like, I want to be able to kind of like make everybody think that I'm in with them, like just kind of like rule from the shadows and like no one really knows what I'm doing. Like, I just was so impressed and I really like admire his game. So, as far as a winner goes, I I struggle with this so much. I feel like I don't know that there is like a single winner that I'm like, I really like that person is the person that I would say like I'm like. Um,
Hmm.
but can I throw a curveball and
Oh,
go
please, yes.
surfer? And
Okay,
s-
yeah, let's go
um,
beyond borders. We're in international waters after
uh,
all. Throw a name out.
so I feel like Gino Paulo from Survivor South Africa, the way he played his game where he knew his strengths and his weaknesses coming in, and he knew how to kind of like lean away from his weaknesses and play into his strengths, and he was very self-aware. And that is the kind of game that I'm like really hoping to play. And yeah, not that nobody in US Survivor has done that, but I feel like the way he did it felt very similar to the way that I would hope to do it.
Just do not sleep by the fire. I think that's the one piece
I
of
will
advice I'd
not
give
fall
you.
in the fire, but he did have cute little paws, so
He did have cute little seal paws, and look, you could swim your way through this game, as it were. What would you say is your biggest superpower and your biggest piece of kryptonite that you are bringing into this game?
good question. Um, so I think my biggest superpower is that I feel like I can connect with almost anybody. Like, I feel like I've lived life from a lot of different kind of perspectives, and like I've been an outsider, I've been like a person that knows everybody, and I feel like I'm very open about myself. There's pretty much, if you ask me a question, like, you better want to know the answer because I'm probably going to tell you, even if it's like a little too much. And I feel like that seems to like get other people to trust me and open up really quickly, and like I make fast friends, and so I feel like that is a really useful skill for Survivor. I think my kryptonite is probably, oh man, I'm like a little bit controlling.
Hmm.
And I kind of like to like know what's going on at all times and kind of like, have my finger in all the pies. And I don't know if that's like the best thing for a game where you might come off as a little paranoid or a little, you know, a little too controlling. I mean, really. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think that would be my answer.
Yeah, I mean, how tough do you think it will be for you to like let up on that throttle? Because it seems like a natural part of yourself. But to your point, we're seeing this with 46. No one necessarily likes being told explicitly what to do.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think I can refrain from like bossing people around, but I think just wanting to make sure that everything is in place, like if we're gonna do a plan, and like I think the key will be like finding alliance people that I can really trust, that I can be like, I know that when you say you're gonna go convince that person to do this, that you're gonna convince them that you can do it. Like I think that it will be imperative to find people that maybe not trust fully, but can trust enough to like execute a plan that sees the game in a way that I see the game.
What do you think is one life experience that has prepared you the most for what you're about to jump into?
I don't know. I feel like it's so early, but I was born in Bangkok, and I didn't speak Thai growing up, and we moved to the US where my mom's from when I was 7. And so like for the first 7 years of my life, like I couldn't speak to my own grandfather. He didn't speak English and I didn't speak Thai or Chinese. So like there was just so many times where I just really learned to communicate in like a nonverbal manner with, my a lot of my literal family. And then moved to the US and like didn't understand US culture, and so I feel like I just was forced to like kind of learn to assimilate in my own way, like from a really young age. And I also have like 2 much older sisters. So I feel like I've always been around people that I just like didn't actually fit in with, whether it was age or like culturally or whatever. And so I think that throughout my life, I've moved a lot. And I just feel like all of those things have just made me like really able to kind of blend in with the group and just like pick up on the vibe and just be that vibe too.
Well, you talk about this sort of communication breakdown. I mean, that's sort of the mode you're living in right now, obviously. For the second time in 2 years, you are in this isolation mode, and I'm sure you have a lot of thoughts about the competition around you. So, right now, well, who are you eyeballing as like great vibes, best case scenario, ride or die day one on the beach?
I knew you were gonna ask this question, and it's funny because I genuinely like all of these people seem really, really great. And that sounds like such a cop out, but genuinely, I feel like it would be easier to be like, who am I not vibing with? But which is not, there's not even that many people
I
either.
was gonna
But
say, I was gonna like, if it's easier to do the opposite end, let's go to the opposite end. Then I'll get shady with you.
well, there's like one person that is just not like making too much eye contact, not giving very many smiles. Like everyone seems very friendly, and this guy is seems just like he was wearing like a shirt that said Macho Man on the first day, so I was like, maybe it's me and not, like, I don't know. I'm not a macho man, but yeah, I as far as good vibes go, I really like. There's like an Indian girl that I just like she just seems very bubbly and personable, and I don't know, but I also feel like this is a little biased because I feel like the people I feel the best about are the people that are sitting just happen to be sitting closest to me at Ponderosa. So like I feel like there is like you see them enough and then feel a little more comfortable. So I don't know, this could all be very biased, but then there's this like younger black guy who I call Snacks because the very first day, the head of Ponderosa was like, "Do not have food in your tent like at night, or ants will like just come in droves." And so, I like handed him like the pack of gum that I had in my bag, and that guy opens his backpack, and it's just like an entire backpack full of snacks. Like it was like Skittles and Doritos. And like it was just bag after bag after bag. They like grabbed this giant gallon bag and he was like shoving it, or like it's like a 2 gallon bag, just shoving it full of snacks. And I was like, that's my kind of person, like just prepared with all the snacks. So I really like him.
Well, let's open up your candy store of Survivor hot takes. Give me your most controversial opinion. It could be about a player, season, or the show overall.
Interesting. Okay. I think that idols and advantages in the new era are set you up to fail. I
Mm.
feel like more than not, not only are they like not successful, but they also socially isolate you or make you suspicious or whatever. And I don't know that, at least pre-merge, that they are like worth the what's the saying I'm missing here? Worth the
Worth the
squeeze.
squeeze.
Like, yeah, yeah.
Interesting. So is that something you're going to bring directly into your own game? Are you
Yeah, I
saying like
mean, watch me say
journeys?
this
I'm
now,
good.
and then like 2 days from now, I do whatever. But no, I mean, I genuinely feel like if I come across, I'm definitely not volunteering for a journey. But if I come across a Beware Advantage, I'm gonna like really think hard about what I want to do with that. And that doesn't mean that I'm just gonna ignore it, but maybe I will guide someone else to find it, or I will tell someone else that I found it and I don't want to I don't know. But I just feel I don't think that I want that. Just because even if it's just like, I know this 46, they had fewer advantages that you could technically do by yourself, like Hunter got his and no one knew about it. It's still like time away from the rest of the tribe to do those things. And there is so little time now. And it's like, and then I have to like hide that, you know, flusterness. I don't know. And I don't think, for me at least, that it would necessarily be the path I'd want to take.
Last but not least, you know how I'm going to close this out. If you could bring a celebrity or a fictional character for a loved one's visit, who would it be? Do you remember who you told me last year?
I do, and I'm going to use the same answer.
There we go.
I would bring Veronica Mars. I feel like she is a badass and she's scrappy, and I think that she's a private investigator, so she picks up on all these little things, and she would come to the island, and we'd go on reward or whatever, and she would be looking around and being like, "You didn't notice that that person is doing this and that person's doing that," and she would tell me all the things that I was missing, because she's more perceptive than I am, and she'd help me win the game. So
There we go. Look out, Detective Dean. We have an actual private investigator on the loose in Survivor.
yeah.
Well, a long time ago, we used to be friends. We're still friends now. But I know that again. when we talked, you obviously had a lot going on at the moment, and I'm so happy this became a when not if for you. I can't imagine what the past year has been for you, especially kind of watching season 46 play out in so many
Yeah.
ways. But like you said, what is meant to be is meant to be. And I'm so happy that we are here now, that this is your time and that this is going to be your season, your 26 days. I can't tell you how much joy it brings me. Not only getting the chance to talk with you right now, but to see what's going to happen with you over the course of the season.
Yeah, I'm excited. Hopefully, I don't fuck it up too bad.
Well, no matter what, like just think about the fact that you got here. There's so many people who did it,
Yeah,
and
it's been
you
a
got
long, long journey, and it is a win to just be sitting here today. So I'll take it.
Absolutely. Well, I know that once again, it's a journey of anticipation for you right now. So I wish you the best as you're sitting, waiting for the big day to arrive, and then the big 26 days that are to follow. And I will see you on the other side, my friend. So great getting to talk with you again.
Good to see you, Mike.
Yeah, good to see you too. Have a great one.
All right, there you have it. Rachel Lamont, Mike. The second time was the charm.
Yeah, there we go. And it's really interesting as well to go through her perspective because, again, it's incredibly rare. Besides Austin, and I guess Kelly was also from 45, was an alternate for 43. We don't get much introspection into, like, from a mental process, what that is like. But it's very intriguing to see Rachel almost approach season 46 as, like, season 47 day -1, right? Of like her being like, I'm going to be out here in Fiji, proving to people why they made a mistake, just making me an alternate. And whether or not that was coincidental or not, she was able to make good on that time. And now she's out here in a much better headspace and ready to actually have her feet hit the beaches of Fiji.
Okay. She seemed like she really knows her stuff, dropping international Survivor references. And
yeah, second one on her try. Maybe her and Andy can connect over that. Of course, Andy mentioned Ferris as well in his interview, so could be a fun little international Survivor coalition.
Boy, Australian Survivor versus the world. Those two are going to have the group chat's going to be lit.
Yeah, maybe they were actually prognosticating who would be on it. That's how they spent their days on Gata, was just coming up with fan casts for that theme.
Yeah. Okay. Mike, how do you feel about Rachel, the player?
I feel pretty good about Rachel, the player. I think she has a really good head for the game. I think her hot take about how she feels like new era advantages and idols are, quote, setting you up for failure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think it's classic journalism, right? Where the headline is very hot and spicy, but maybe like the content itself considerably cools down the temperature of her going on to say that it's not necessarily like, oh, you're automatically going to bomb because of it. It's that because a lot of these idols and advantages require some sort of social component, which is something you mentioned before in this series, it is something that kind of like puts you out on an island, right? Either everyone knows about it, or it's like, I have to go sneak away and do this thing. And then when I'm gone, everyone's going to be conspiring against me behind my back.
Well, really, her and Andy, I think, have pretty similar views about the idols and the advantages. And so maybe that's sort of like a natural duo to come together, Rachel and Andy.
I think so. I mean, those two, I think, are probably two of the biggest fans on the cast as well, with them, Teeny, and I would say Asia as well. And I think, again, the two of them are both such like down-to-earth personalities that I don't really see any huge conflict there. Should be noted that one of the people that Rachel pointed out at Ponderosa positively was, I believe, Annika. And remember, Annika also pointed out Rachel as well positively. So I really see the two of them linking up early on, and I could see a world where they bring in Andy as a third as well.
Yeah, also, they both have a tech background between Rachel and Andy, and so I do think that there is a lot of overlap there between the two of them. Okay, Mike, do you think there's anything to the alternate coming back, and they say, like Jeff says, hey, play the first time like it's your second time. But we saw Kelly Nalbandian was somebody who came in like ready to go in season 45 after being an alternate in season 43. Like, do you feel like is that at all like a little bit of an advantage, as sort of like, okay, you have that over, you've been to Fiji, you've been through this process, you sort of like have seen this a little bit, maybe there's less jitters?
I mean, that was the Bruce argument, in 45, right? Was that he was saying, hey, the amount of experience I have over you stops the first day of the game.
Yeah.
But he did say he has experience with the quote, hurry up and wait of the preseason.
But the Emily argument is what I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly. You're saying like, no, actually, you do have a significant advantage. I mean, I would say early on, I don't know. It's if there are any jitters that end up subsiding over the course of this week or so where they're just sitting in silence, I think that immediately ebbs away once the game starts because they've never experienced the start of a Survivor season beforehand. They get sent home on the day when all of that begins. And who knows, maybe it's almost like corking up a bottle that then all those emotions will come spilling out once it's like, oh my God, okay, I actually am on the show this time. Great, I'm going to do this, this, and that.
Yeah. Okay, Mike, anything else you want to say about Rachel?
I did like how Rachel started our interview by talking about how when she watched Survivor for the first time, when she quite literally got on the couch and watched, she said that like, well, there are some people who watch Jeopardy and are immediately like, I can do that. And it's like, well, there was a player that said that to both shows and ended up succeeding. Doubly so.
Yeah. All right. So we have one more day here in the Gata tribe. You mentioned one of the cast members that we're going to talk about, Sam. Who's the other person we're going to talk about tomorrow?
Sierra Wright. And I will also just mention briefly, because I love, here's a future note to Survivor players out there. If I get the chance to talk with you in the preseason, do nicknames. Nicknames are fun. We like nicknames. And I did get the identities of the other people that Rachel was identifying when talking about the Ponderosa stew.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, Mike likes a Flavor Flav out here giving out nicknames to the cast. I feel like there was a lot of that in 45, right?
Well, Caleb was mainly the one that was doing it.
Right.
Caleb was the Flavor Flav and did it for everybody. But Rachel sort of did a mini version of that. So she had Macho Man, right, which was like the guy that's giving her nothing that had that shirt on the first day. That was Gabe. So, again, we'll get to Gabe. Not the first time that Gabe has been mentioned.
Yeah.
And then the other one was Snacks, which was the guy that, like, heavyweight style was hoarding a 2-gallon bag full of snacks. And that was Rome, evidently. Which makes a lot of sense, right? Like, he comes from the gaming world. I feel like everyone who games full-time just has a 2-gallon bag.
Flamin' hot Cheetos.
Yeah, exactly. Takis just sitting there, not taku. So very, very fun from Rachel. And hey, if she has the chance to go to the merge, that maybe she and Rome will be able to dig into an alliance together.
Yeah, just don't go through his bag. Okay.
Yeah.
All
Could
right.
be Coconut Bandits 2.0. They could squirrel away their secret snacks together.
Yeah, his bag is the one that has the ants leading up to it.
All right. Well, tomorrow it is Sam and it is Sierra. So we're going to round out Gata. And then, Rob, you and I can prognosticate a little bit about how we think this group of 6 will do. As I mentioned before, nowhere to go but up in terms of chaotic yellow tribes in Survivor New Era seasons. But I'll be intrigued to see your thoughts on what the dynamics might be early on.
Okay. Make sure you're subscribed to our Rob Has a Podcast feed to make sure you don't miss any of these episodes, because if you miss one, everybody's going to know except for you. It's going to be horrible. robhasawebsite.com/subscribe. I just don't want to see that happen to you where you miss an episode of the podcast, okay? And then, of course, hit that subscribe button if you're watching us here on YouTube. What's coming up for you, Mike?
So at this point, I will also be 2/3 of the way through the Taku. No, not the Taku tribe. I just mentioned the Taku tribe. Through the Tuku tribe, as it were. The Blue tribe, the final tribe we haven't talked about, where I will have released my interviews with Kyle and Sue, as well, who are 2 people that are also getting a lot of eyes on them in the preseason. So check that out over at parade.com.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us for day 5 of our previews. We'll be back with another 2 people to round out the Gata tribe tomorrow. Take care. Have a good one. Bye.